Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about boundaries. We're going to be going over, trauma responses and what you have rights to and what you should do when it comes to people who are pushing your boundaries. But before we get into that, I'm going to just kind of make a little disclaimer. Especially as a Luciferian, Luciferians typically hold themselves to a very, very high standard, behavioral standard. A lot of people get Luciferians and Satanists mixed up. But anyway, I especially want to drive the point home that it is important to always make sure that you have a handle on the energy that you are putting out into the world and onto other people. If you are feeling hostile or angry, and you feel like pumping that, pumping passive aggressiveness or spewing that onto other people, stop yourself. You don't know what other people are dealing with. You don't know if they have had recent tragedies. You don't, that they're keeping private. You don't know if they're dealing with, a death in the family. You don't know if somebody is dealing with major life issues. And if you just are having a bad day and you go and just take your aggression out on them, you could push them to a point where they just want to check out completely on life. That's a danger that happens. Or they just want to withdraw from you completely. And so it's very important to make sure that you have a handle on your own behaviors, that you check your own emotional boundaries and make sure that you're not projecting your issues onto other people. And it's just very important that you just own your own actions, own your feelings, and that if you feel a certain way or you feel like somebody is offending you or bothering you, to talk to them responsibly and in a mature, calm way. Sideswiping people or coming at them and pretending that, you're not, or, that's considered like a microaggression. Like, it's saying, oh, well, it's just a joke. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. Own your emotions, own your actions, and make sure that you do better all the time. Make sure that you are constantly seeking to leave people better than you found them. I get people, I have very, very strong boundaries, and I have those for a very distinct reason. For a very long time, people would try to push mine, and they still do to this day. And I've gotten people who are like, oh, well, she's too happy, or oh, she's extreme, she'll send you to cease and desist, she'll do this. And yeah, absolutely, I will every single time, out of principle. And it's not like a Karen moment or anything. It's a boundary setting. It's a don't fuck with me beyond this point setting. And everyone should have that. It's very important that you have that, and most people don't. It's very common that most people don't have are not comfortable enough with confrontation, because when you set a boundary, you need to expect anger. A lot of people are used to being able to bully and to push, blame onto you, to push their own fears or their own projections onto you. And you have a right to not accept that. You have a right to say, no, I don't take responsibility for that, or no, that is offensive. Don't ever do that again. No, do not talk about my body. Do not talk about my, anything to do with privacy. You make sure that you do not allow people to invade your boundaries beyond what you are comfortable with. And a lot of people say, oh, well, that's just being bitchy. That's just being, extra. No, it's not anything like that. It's about respecting yourself and demanding respect for yourself. People don't generally like someone who has strict boundaries. And so, usually I'll notice with myself, I'll either have people who absolutely love me or absolutely hate me. And it's never usually like an in-between. And usually the people who like me are very, are also very strong people who have a very sincere sense of self and, genuine authenticity to them, and aren't, they're not the frenemy types. Your frenemies, I'm sure people have heard that term, somebody who pretends to be your friend but it's actually your enemy. I don't really have any of those because and you can sniff those types of people out really fast. Those type of people tend to push your boundaries little by little and make you feel very uncomfortable. The key to taking frenemies out of the equation is to stop their bullshit immediately. When that happens, like I said, expect to receive anger. I had that happen in a very public way. I had someone who was absolutely pushing boundaries in every way, especially like financial boundaries. And because I called her on her bullshit, she blew up and was like, "Oh, she's a scammer, she's a fake," and all this stuff. And anyway, like I said, you have to expect, you have to expect anger and backlash. And regardless of the hell that caused me, and it did, and it still, it still occasionally does, I'm still so much better off because I told her to go fuck herself instead of having someone in my life who was like sucking off of me like a vampire. So boundaries. There's different types. There's material, which I just mentioned, where you don't, a lot of people have trouble with this. Like maybe it's in relationships, or maybe it's loaning family money. This is a material boundary is a situation where you make sure that you are not having people take advantage of you financially, or guilting you into giving them money. A lot of women accept men who are, they talk about that term scrubs, who are living off of them, and that just becomes the new normal, and they think that like their dick is payment or something. It's not. Have material boundaries. The more and more, if you feel unsettled and unhappy or resentful in your life, that's because your boundaries have been pushed and you haven't stopped them. You start to feel powerless, and you start to feel resentful, and you start to get really pissed, and then you kind of blow up, and then you feel bad about blowing up, and you try to retract it and make that person like you again, because you're like, oh gosh, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And that results from low self-esteem. Having a lack of boundaries usually happens because you didn't have them as a child. Maybe you were abused, or maybe you had a parent who didn't stand up for you, or you had maybe you had sexual violence occur against you. But somewhere along the line, somebody made you feel powerless, and you usually, when you have dealt with abuse, you usually either become the bully, or you become somebody who is constantly having their boundaries pushed back and back and back. And so I want, if you have been abused, I want you to make sure that you listen to what I'm saying here in the rest of the video. It's so important to hold your boundaries. So whenever financial, do not think that you owe anyone your money. You don't owe anyone shit. Even if you have a lot of money, I've dealt with people, even with my business, who will like try to like scam or extort me for like free merchandise and stuff. And when I push back, I'm like, no, it'll come out, oh, well, you have a lot, or, oh, well, you're successful, or you can afford it. That's none of your business. It's not that's not anybody's right. You do not owe anybody anything. So, I've run into the situation where, just about, golly, any kind of bad reviews or like trolling situations, where people have looked online like, oh, what is that about? It's usually about somebody who's like tried to steal or scam their way into like free products or something like that, and people will try your boundaries. And I don't give a shit. I'm not going to give in to that. I'm going to demand respect for myself. So, to hell with them. But like I said, a lot of people do this with romantic partners. Don't allow somebody to mooch off of you and trade dick, or ass for money. It's ridiculous. You do not have to financially support someone. Physical boundaries. You don't have to hug people. You don't have to shake their hands. You don't have to if you touch inappropriately. You don't have to live in your house and suffer from lack of sleep from neighbors who want to be loud and disrespect your personal physical space because they're being assholes. You have the right to demand that your physical boundaries are being maintained. Let's see, mental boundaries. You have the right to your own thoughts and opinions. You have the right to disagree. You have the right to maintain your own identity. A lot of abusers will go and demand that you constantly agree with them, or that you lose your sense of opinion, or that you don't have one anymore, and that's absolutely just wrong. Let's see. Emotional boundaries, accepting blame for somebody else's mood or dealing with microaggressions. A lot of people will go and they're too much of a coward to confront you personally, so they'll go and pretend it's a joke, and they'll make little pot shots at you, and it'll make you feel uncomfortable inside, and it'll draw make you like not well up in your stomach. And that's because it's a trauma response, because likely somebody has done that to you before. If you've ever been bullied or made feel powerless, those kind of things kind of activate that feeling, and it's bullshit, and you don't need to accept it. So call it out on the carpet and say, don't ever fucking do that again. Don't ever come at me again like that. And usually they'll try to, be, oh, it's a joke, whatever. No, like, make sure they accept responsibility. It's not okay. And I guarantee you that shit won't happen again. The more and more you accept from the get-go, the more and more people will try to push. And I don't want that for any of you. All right, let's see. Rights. You have rights. You have the right to privacy. Nobody, and this includes online, nobody has the right to come stalk you. Nobody has the right to talk about your body. Nobody has the right to make sexual comments. Nobody has the right to talk about your children, your marriage, your finances. They have no right to do any of that shit. And if somebody does, I absolutely advise suing the shit out of them, or at least threatening to, with like an official cease and desist. But be ready to absolutely go wild on somebody for violating your boundaries. This day and age, trolls get a little bit too comfortable. They do a lot of things that they would get popped in the mouth for in person, and they think that they're they can, or they get comfortable with it. But I guarantee you, the second they're in court, they're crying like babies. Make sure, and I totally have before, make sure that you go all the way with it, and that you either get an apology or a retraction of the statement, or you make sure that they can't speak anymore. But do not accept bullying and bullshit and lies about you. It's not okay. And don't hide in shame. Let's see. You have the right to say no. There's people who will constantly take advantage of your generosity or your time, or expect to be able to have access to you all the time, or expect to have you drop what you're doing to come help them, or fix something in their life. You have the right to say no. and not give an explanation. If you want respect in your life from the people you love, then make sure that you say no on a regular basis when you're not comfortable. If people don't know your boundaries, then they are going to push and push and push until you blow up. You have the right to cancel things, like outings and dates and stuff. It's not, I don't recommend it because I don't recommend signing up for things that I don't intend on finishing. So I don't recommend doing that. But if you need to cancel and something is going to this event or doing something is going to cause you harm or mental harm, then you have the right to cancel. You have the right to ask for help. If you are overloaded and you just can't complete a task, then you can ask for help. This goes for employees and things like that. If you're being overloaded and it's just too hard of a job and there's too much being expected of you, then you have the right to say, hey, I need help. This is a little bit too much. A lot of people think that they have to constantly overextend themselves to the point of exhaustion or passing out to complete tasks. And you should always have a good work ethic. You should always do a good job. But there are employers and things like that will take advantage of that. As an employer, you have the right to expect and ask for a good job being done. I deal with a lot of people and a lot of clients who have a lot of anxiety because they'll have insubordinate employees who who they really like, but yet are fucking up, and then they have attitude about it. That's unacceptable. And that goes back to what I was saying. You have to establish your boundaries from the beginning, and do not allow people to run over you. And the second they do, get them back in check. You are not a bitch. You are not an asshole for demanding boundaries being respected. You have the right to expect the things that you hire out for. You have the right to expect services to be done correctly. You have the right to expect your boundaries being honored. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, they may have that meme about talking to the manager. Everybody should be like that, just a little bit more. Not an asshole, like not complaining for the hell of it, but if somebody actually violates your boundaries, then check them immediately and just say absolutely not. I'm not going to deal with that shit again. And like I said, expect anger, expect retaliation, but the people who will remain in your life are the people who have no bad intentions for you afterwards. I've lost friends. I've gained a lot more friends. I've gained very good friends. And, we have a very good group. The Order of Dark Arts. It's all a bunch of very strong-minded people. And I love every one of them. People talk about, there's a couple trolls who are like, oh, it's a cult. It's definitely not. A Luciferian is somebody who has, a very strong sense of self and a very strong sense of their spirituality and a very strong sense of right and wrong. And they are not easily, they left standard religion. They are not easily swayed. So, cult, hell no. It's a bunch of very free thinkers that, happen to honor demons. Let's see. So, we went over rights. Further advice. With your children, I really, really suggest that you honor their personal boundaries. If you fuck up a child, you will cause them to grow up into an adult that has a lot of pain and will spend a lot of money and time seeking healing and seeking a sense of self and seeking confidence, and that can really be avoided by your years, your 1 through 5 years of making sure that you respect their boundaries, that you let them, let them feel valued, that you let them feel heard, that you let them feel loved, that you don't force them into anything that's inappropriate. Make sure that you are a good parent, because a lot of my clients are people who were hurt in the past. And it is amazing what early childhood trauma can cause in an adult later. Childhood trauma typically causes you to become an adult who has no boundaries, because you learned that you had to accept abuse from people that you relied on, and that caused you to lose all confidence and lose all sense of self, and feel like you had no right to demand the things that you needed. And that goes for love, that goes for material items, that goes for safety, physical safety. And you end up with a really, really screwed up adult. So, if you're watching this and you're a parent, I implore you to be a better one, and to make sure, I think that a child who is opinionated and and boisterous is amazing, because that child is going to be a strong, confident individual when they're an adult. Make sure that you're not raising them to be weak and timid and scared, and don't abuse them, because golly, like I said, so many of my clients, so many of the people that buy my potions are people who are hurting and need to be healed. And that's, that ends up being where a lot of the magic, comes in, is it's just by hearing people's story and letting them talk. A lot of people don't even get the chance to talk about their trauma. They don't even get the chance to express their feelings because they're scared. So like I said from the beginning, make sure that the energy you're putting out is good. Hold yourself to a higher standard. Make sure that you leave people better than you found them. This includes your children. This includes your friends, your family. Be a better person. There are so many entitled, shitty people out there that go and recklessly hurt others because they're hurt themselves. And that includes trolls, that includes people who are scrubs, that includes all kinds of just the nasties in the world. Those are usually very broken, shitty people. And I need to make a reminder that no matter how broken you are, you still have a choice about how you act. So don't repeat cycles and put that onto others. Make sure that you constantly are taking responsibility for your actions, and that you are constantly trying to improve others around you. Be a positive, good light. That is what a true Luciferian is. And I just wish all of you well. And I hope that you all are good to each other. I've experienced so much hate online, but also I've experienced so much love. And it's a daily struggle to make sure that I don't develop resentfulness from things I've seen, or experienced. But one of the ways that I don't, and I continue to be a positive person or figure for a lot of people, is by maintaining boundaries and maintaining that confidence and self-assurance, and not letting anybody just push me over. I wish all of you the same, and I hope you take this advice, and I hope you learned something today. See you around.